Hey, it's Dan. Welcome back. This is I Allegedly. And I've got a good one for you today because the one-day eviction is here. One day. Bye. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. And let's get right into it. You know, during the CARES Act of 2020, when COVID hit, they put a moratorium on evictions. And it started with 120 days. So people could get their bearing and people could get their finances in order, and families would not get kicked out of their houses and rental units, and they would get to maintain their properties. Great idea. And one thing that was connected with that was a 30-day eviction term. And the 30-day eviction term was designed so that, hey, listen, you're done. You've got 30 days to move out, which is a long time when it comes to evictions. And the problem with this is that this basically carried forward. A lot of states extended it. California, certain counties, Los Angeles County extended the eviction time to where it was, 30 days, extended another 90 days. I mean, it was these people stayed in their houses for basically a year. And then what they did was they said, listen, you have to pay half of your back rent by August 1st of this year. I think it was 2021 of that year, or 2022, pardon me. And the other half will be paid in the early part of 2023. And people just didn't pay it. And the landlords were out. So the landlords have been complaining this entire time that it hasn't been fair to them, hasn't been fair to the mortgage companies, because the landlords go to the mortgage companies and say, hey, we need, a deferral of payments, we need, forbearance, we need a delay, and you foreclosing against us because our renters are not paying us. Well, Iowa, latest state, think about this. They just passed a law that you're going to be able to evict somebody with 3 days notice now. What a novel idea. It was 30 days. And the legislators, you can read the story below, legislators have said this was never intended to go on forever. And that's what these people have done. And this is a win for the landlords. It's a win for the mortgage company. Well, HUD and some of these senators have stepped forward and said, wait a second, we should, with some of these government programs and these federal programs, have a eviction time of 1 day. 1 day. So you're getting evicted, you're going to court, and here in California, they cut the response time. They doubled it. They didn't cut it, they extended it. So in other words, when somebody gets an eviction notice here in California, they used to have 5 days to respond. Now they have 10 days. So again, it just delays the process. Then they respond back, then they set the court date, and it can take months to evict somebody right now. So they want to get rid of this, but the federal rules, they want to change to where it could be as quick as 1 day. 1 day to kick you out of the house. Now, I did a story a few years ago for the 1 hour eviction where they just got fed up with this in certain states like Arizona and things like that. But the 1 day eviction, it looks like this is going to stick in some municipalities, and you're going to have Congress vote on this and make it a federal rule to where enough is enough. The CARES Act is done. People have beat the system, and the people that are against this are saying, hey, wait a second, you're taking the poorest people with kids, and they don't have the ability to pay rent. They don't have the ability to pay their bills, and you're kicking them out in the street. Well, wait a second. You've had years now, and that's been 4 years, guys, 5 years in some instances, and you're sitting there going to say that this is supposed to go on like this forever? Come on. It gets kind of ridiculous. So, wild to think about. Absolutely wild to think about. But you could, realistically, in a short period of time, 3 days is back, guys. It's definitely back. When Iowa did this, and they were one of the last states to extend it, it's only going to be a matter of time until they cut it down. Now, talking to every single landlord that I know that has multiple properties, some have 2, some have 50, and have all said it is the worst business in the world to get into right now. It's awful. Now, speaking of multifamily problems, Fannie Mae is the insurer that lends for, they do more homes than they do multifamily. They just set aside $752 million because of mortgage fraud in the multifamily sector. Great article below out of Bloomberg. And the problem is that these people that are borrowing money for apartment buildings, what they do is they get, let's just give you a simple scenario. You get an appraiser who's on the take, you tell him, hey, listen, I know this slum is only worth about $1 million. Say it's worth $9 million, and appraise it at $9 million. They get a loan for $9 million, and then they have no intention of paying it. Everybody gets paid off, it gets put in their pockets, and then Fannie Mae, who's insured this, takes the loss. Right now, they think that there are $752 million worth of losses from just last year. The last 2 years, you had another almost $700 million and another $1.5 billion in fraudulent loans that defaulted. Wow, isn't that crazy, guys? Just gets, just keeps going and going and going. So everybody's fed up right now. Everybody is done, and it is difficult to get a mortgage right now. The biggest problem is insuring things. The biggest problem with multifamily, they tell me the same thing. It's insurance on the multifamily units. Trying to get insurance for an apartment building. Think about this. Think of the expenses you have. And we've all pulled into an apartment complex. All the lights that are on, all the driveways that have to be maintained, all the shrubbery, everything that's got to be cut, maintained, all that stuff. You pay somebody to do all that stuff. Well, if nobody's paying rent, then you have a problem. One thing that I got a kick out of is I went on Reddit with this story, and people are saying, you know what we should do? We should have a 30-day moratorium where everybody just doesn't pay their bills. And that was a thinking. That got the most comments where people are like, what a great idea. Let's just beat everybody out of the money and not pay them. What a horrible idea, guys. Whatever happened to being successful in the American dream and moving your life forward and making more money and getting a career and a life and being responsible? No. Dan, let's beat the man. Come on, okay? Well, I'm telling you guys, there's a new sheriff in town, and they are fed up with people not paying right now. And with that, you're going to see more and more people get kicked out faster. But this 3-day rule, this is crazy. This is the end of this. It got cut down as short as 10 days, and everybody thought that was, oh my gosh, how dare you have a 10-day eviction? It's too fast. And then now it's 3 days, and people are saying that this is going to be too much. But 1 day's high. You have to get out by tomorrow at midnight. That's what's coming. What do you guys think about this? I think it's crazy right now. I think that the fact that you have people that are still living with the moratorium, people that are still getting forbearance in their loans, and you can sit there and say, you're crazy, nobody's done that. These banks, up until December, would make any deal that you could. You could not pay your bills, and they would not tolerate it. I met a woman whose husband was the president of a bank, and he retired. And his pension is in jeopardy because they say that they may stop it after 10 years, and he's going to be 75, and he retired at 65 from the bank. But this guy used to show up at people's businesses if they weren't paying. These guys today don't care about that. You could owe the bank $2 billion, and they're not doing anything. So let me know what you think about this, but the 1-day eviction could be here very, very soon. One thing that we've talked about so much is insurance and insurance costs. As I drove up in the hills today and I was talking to my brother, I said, I want to see if that house is still for sale. And just go buy it if that's what you want. You keep going by it, and you clearly want it. No. I just am curious if somebody bought it, because look at the shrubbery around here, guys. Imagine living in this. I wanted to 5 months ago. No. So with that being said, you're going to have nothing but problems. And I explained to him how he lives out in Riverside County. He lives, 100 miles away from where the Palisades are. And with that being said, this guy, is going to have to pay for the Palisades fire. He's going to have a increase in his insurance because they have a $1 billion loss right now. Now, Colorado is trying to do something different, which I got to give them credit for this, because I read it at first. I thought, oh, this doesn't seem fair, but it's totally fair. And what they want to do is Senate bill, Colorado state bill is Assembly bill, excuse me. 1182 wants to make it so that if you are subject to increased insurance, you need to be able to have an appeals process. You need to be able to say, hey, listen, my house has got all these trees around it. And if I clear that, I want to mitigate my damages and I want my rates to go back down. And they have to give you that opportunity. Read the story below because it's pretty fascinating on what you can do to bring it down. And they want this to happen. Now, will it happen this year? Who knows? Who knows? Bureaucracy is BS. I mean, it just takes forever to get things done. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and if people will be able to take advantage of that. Because, man, this is the problem, guys. It's funny. See this house back there behind this house? I don't know who they are. Don't know anything about the house. But this was a non-fire risk up until, a year ago. And then they raised the fire risk in all these areas. Now you can sit there and say, oh, it's bad. But then when you spin around and you see some of this other stuff, some of this stuff is just open. But this whole area, insurance costs have gone through the roof. Now, to jump to something completely different, and that's entertainment. Got a great story sent to me about going to Disneyland. When I was going through my divorce, my kids were young, I bought Disney passes, and we would drive to Disneyland. And my son and I once went 3 times in 1 week. It was very inexpensive, guys. It was a few $100s for a pass, and you could just pull in the parking lot, go. You could get free parking if you bought something at a restaurant and go out. Well, they just did a story on 2 parents, 2 kids, going to the Disney parks for 4 days is $4,200. Who has that money? It's $1,000 a day, guys, to go to Disneyland for 2 people. Okay, that does not include your food, and not include your hotel stay or your transportation. Oh, you didn't mention that. So going to Disneyland will be, $8,000, $9,000 to go to Disneyland now. Who can afford that, guys? It's crazy. This is what's nuts is that, it's a big deal. Some people, would save 10 years to come to the Southern California amusement parks. And I would always feel for that. And I would feel bad if you had bad weather or something would go down for these people. But man, it's just gotten to where nobody can afford it. What do you think? I think it's outrageous right now. We're going to have a real time where there's going to have to be a real justification for things. Going to a restaurant, value meals where you get good food for a reasonable price. I think it's dead myself. We saw even an IHOP go out of business in the last video. And I just think that people don't want to necessarily spend, $30 on pancakes. But going to Disneyland and spending $4,200 for 4 days, God help us all, man. That is crazy. Few stories to finish this video. I want to remind everybody that we have a private channel called I Allegedly Live, and you sign up at iallegedly.tv. It's uncensored. It's everything we can't talk about here. It's fantastic. Hertz, the rental car company, just admitted that they finally unloaded all their Tesla vehicles and got rid of every EV vehicle and sold them at a loss and unloaded them. The stock went down 10% on Friday as well with this fantastic news. Rivian has announced that they have a plug-in van that they will sell to any company for 80 grand, and it's plug-in electric charge van. And crazy. So again, guys, if you want an electric van, think about the return on investment. You could probably buy a used van, a good one, for 10 grand. So $10,000 fuel, insurance, and everything, or 80 grand, plug it in, limited mileage. I mean, you make the call on that. And the CEO of Uber has just stepped forward and said, listen, we don't want to go up against Elon. We're going to offer the robo-taxis on Uber as soon as we can. And we would rather not compete with them. We'd rather work with him. So again, it looks like Tesla's doing something right when it comes to, the taxi line. What's fascinating about this is you could see a world where they just make robo-taxis. They don't make cars anymore. And, Tesla's a data company also. Their data is very valuable and they sell it all the time. Final story out of The Guardian, which is great. And that is The Guardian did a story on breakfast and how breakfast is broken, and people don't want to pay $25 for breakfast. They don't want to pay $5 for a cup of coffee at a coffee shop. Now, a traditional coffee shop when I grew up was just a simple little restaurant where you'd get breakfast at. Not anymore, guys. You know, it's crazy. When you see IHOP go out of business and Denny's can't make it, it's just getting worse right now. And now, how do you fix it? How do you fix something broken? It's too expensive. The inflation is too much. The cost of orange juice, frozen orange juice, which I don't drink, has gone up over 200% since 2020. That's crazy. Nobody talks about that. Coffee's through the roof. You can talk about the climate changes and everything like that. But the problem with it is just inflation, and it's too expensive. Cheese has gone through the roof. Eggs, we don't have to talk about, but you get the gist of it. So please don't forget to hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. If you ever want to send me a story or yell at me or tell me that I say something too much, feel free to do that because I enjoy that. Okay, make sure you leave your name and be a man. Anyways, hello@iallegedly.com is the email address. Okay, I'll see you real soon.